Hello friends, welcome to my channel Anthropology Insights. Today we are going to learn about evolution and hominization process. So these are the different phases in our evolution. As we know, in the beginning life was in the bacterial form. Prokaryotic bacteria, that is cyanobacteria, were present. Then from prokaryotes, different eukaryotes evolved. From eukaryotes, different types of plants, fungi, algae evolved, and simple multicellular animals evolved. From these simple animals, different types of invertebrates emerged during the Cambrian explosion. After that, first true vertebrates, that is fish, evolved and diversified in the Devonian period. From these vertebrates, amphibians evolved, which were first tetrapod. From these, reptiles evolved, and there was an adaptive radiation of these reptiles. And with this adaptive radiation, different kinds of dinosaurs and mammal-like reptiles evolved. After that, during Triassic period, these mammal-like reptiles evolved into archaic mammals. During Cretaceous period, different marsupial then placental mammals evolved. From these placental mammals, adaptive radiation took place and different mammals emerged and evolved, including primates. From these early primates, apes and then humans evolved. So this is how we evolved from a simple prokaryotic cell to a multicellular and more complex and developed humans. So let's now see what is evolution. So evolution in simple terms means change in progressive direction, change with modification or change with adaptation. In genetic science, evolution refers to change in gene frequencies. So biological evolution encompasses three issues. First is the fact of evolution, that is, organisms are related by common descent with modification. Second, evolutionary history, that is, when lineages split from one another and the changes that occur in lineage. Third is the mechanisms or processes by which evolutionary changes occur. So there are different mechanisms by which evolutionary changes took place. We are going to study them later. The idea first emerged from observations of systematic changes in the succession of fossil remains found in a sequence of layered rocks. The farther back into the past one looked, the less the fossil resembled recent forms. More advanced forms of animal and plant lives have been found only in younger geological strata. सो जोलॉजिकल टाइम स्केल की जो हमने स्टडी की है विद द हेल्प ऑफ जो बायोस्टैटिग्राफी एंड प्रिंसिपल ऑफ फॉनल सक्सेशन, उससे हमें पता चलता है कि देर इज़ सम काइंड ऑफ इंटरकनेक्शन एंड इवोल्यूशन ऑफ स्पेसीज. तो जैसे जैसे हम लोग लोअर स्ट्राटा में जाते हैं वैसे उनको जो रिजेम्बलेंस है विद द रिसेंट फॉर्म्स वो कम होता जाता है एंड मोर एडवांस फॉर्म आर फाउंड इन द यंगर लेयर. There have been so many discoveries of intermediate forms between fish and amphibians, amphibians and reptiles and mammals. All the present day species had a common ancestor at some or other time of evolution. जो भी हमने present species है, they all had a common ancestor at some or at other time of evolution. This process of evolution is very timely because thousands of generation के बाद हमें evolutionary changes दिखने लगते हैं और हर एक organism के पास एक inherent character होता है, inherent character of change in order to adjust to the changing environment, which is known as adaptability or adaptation. Okay. Such adaptation change in organism lead to the origin of new species. Since changes are due to adaptation, new species are always better adapted and more organized than their ancestors. Here is the tree diagram of human evolution. So approximately 5 to 7 million years ago हमें हमारे ape like ancestor से अलग हुए थे हम लोग. After that approximately around 4 million years ago Australopithecine emerged. After that Homo habilis emerged around 2 million years ago. Homo erectus around 1.8 million years ago, and 6 lakh to 4 lakh years ago Neanderthalensis emerged, and around 2 lakh years ago Homo sapiens evolved, and Homo sapiens evolved very recently about 10,000 years ago. Okay, let's now study some of the methods of organic evolution. Evidence that organisms are related by common descent with modification has been obtained by paleontology, comparative anatomy, biogeography, embryology, biochemistry, molecular genetics, and other biological disciplines. First method is the paleontology and comparative anatomy. So the skeletons of humans, dogs, whales, and bats are strikingly similar despite the different ways of life led by these animals and the diversity of environments in which they have flourished. The correspondence bone by bone can be observed in every part of the body, including the limbs. For example, a dog runs, a whale swims, and a bat flies with structures built of the same bones. Such structures are called as homologous and are best explained by the common descent. So, comparative anatomists investigate such homologies not only in the bone structure but also in other parts of the body. Second method is geographic distribution. So, related fossils and living organisms are found in the same geographical areas or regions. Third method is molecular biology. Evidence is being validated and reinforced by discoveries of modern biochemistry and molecular biology emerged in the 20th century. This new discipline has unveiled the nature of hereditary material and the working of organisms at the level of enzymes and other molecules. The next evidence is embryological evidence. This includes study of biological development from the time of conception. There is a similarity between human embryo and the embryos of other organisms in few initial weeks. Next is from taxonomy. This includes classification of organisms in the same group based on similarities. Next method is cytogenetics. It studies the structure and normal pathological functioning of chromosomes and chromatin. Further, in immunological evidence, we study the similarity in the antigen-antibody reaction. Antigen-antibody reaction is a specific chemical interaction between antibodies produced by B cells of the white blood cells and antigen during immune reaction. So, these were some methods by which we study evolution. Now, let's understand what are the mechanisms of organic evolution. In genetic terms, organic evolution is the change in gene frequency of a population. तो जीन एक शॉर्ट सेक्शन होता है डीएनए का. DNA deoxyribonucleic acid is a molecule which carries the genetic instructions or the hereditary materials. जीन हमारे characteristic traits को define करते हैं. For example, eye color. For eye color, there is this particular gene which codes the color of our eye, and these particular genes can have many forms like brown colored eyes, blue colored eyes, black colored eyes. So these different forms of single gene are called as alleles. So gene influence what we look like on the outside and how we work on the inside. तो इन जीन्स की जो फ्रीक्वेंसी है in a particular population, the change in this gene frequency is called as evolution. So let's now understand what is gene pool. Gene pool is the sum of all genes including all alleles of all individuals in an inbreeding population at particular point. So there are different factors which affect the gene pool. Let's understand them one by one. First is mutation. A gene mutation is a permanent alteration in the DNA sequence that makes up a gene, such that the sequence differ from what is found in most people. तो जीन म्यूटेशन यानी डीएनए सीक्वेंस में अगर कुछ अल्ट्रेशंस हो या बोन बेस की रॉन्ग पेयरिंग हो या फिर कोई बेस absent हो, तो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज जीन म्यूटेशन. नेक्स्ट फैक्टर इज natural selection. Natural selection is the differential survival and reproduction of individuals due to differences in phenotypes. For example, let's consider the example of these green and brown beetles. Let's consider the background, that is the land is of brown colored land, and so the brown colored beetles are not easily visible and only green colored beetles are being eaten by the birds. So naturally brown colored beetles will be more in number and they will multiply by reproduction. So this is called as natural selection. Next reason is genetic drift. Variations in the relative frequency of different genotypes in a small population owing to the chance of disappearance of particular genes as individuals die or do not reproduce. अगर जीनोटाइप्स के रिलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसी में चेंजेस आते हैं बाय फैक्टर जो जिसकी वजह से कोई पर्टिकुलर जीन या उसका फॉर्म डिसअपीयर हो सकता है या बिकॉज इंडिविजुअल्स डाई और डू नॉट रिप्रोड्यूस, तो उसे कहते हैं जेनेटिक ड्रिफ्ट. Similarly, genetic recombination, it is a process by which pieces of DNA are broken and recombined to produce new combinations of alleles. Migration, In population genetics, the term migration means is meant to describe gene flow from one population to another population. Isolation, genetic isolation is population of organisms that has little genetic mixing with other organisms within the same species. Similarly, hybridization, genetic hybridization is the process of inbreeding individuals from genetically distinct populations to produce a hybrid. So all these factors affect the gene pool of the population, and the changes in the gene frequency in the gene pool of a population lead to the organic evolution. So in genetic terms, evolution consists of change in the organism's hereditary material or makeup. एवोल्यूशन कैन बी सीन एज टू स्टेप प्रोसेस. एक तो हेरिडिटरी वेरिएशंस होते हैं और दूसरा उन वेरिएशंस में सिलेक्शन होता है. हेरिडिटरी वेरिएशन भी टू टाइप्स के होते हैं. एक तो स्पॉन्टेनियस म्यूटेशन ऑफ वन वेरिएंट टू अनदर, and second is sexual process that recombines those variants to form a multitude of variations. So this is how evolution takes place. So let's now understand what is hominization. The hominization process consists of evolutionary transformation of hominoids into hominids. Evolution in the hominid line since its divergence from the last common hominoid ancestors. So इस line में जो progressive evolution है उसे कहते हैं hominization. So here we can see the super family is Hominoidea, and our family is Hominidae, subfamily is Homininae, then tribe is Hominini, and our genus is Homo, and we are here human species. Okay, so this is modern hominoid classification. These terms actually includes all those aspects of structure and behavioral changes that occurred in the hominid line, finally leading to evolution of man. So all such changes can be broadly grouped into following heads: erect posture and bipedalism, expansion and development of brain, modification of jaw and teeth, hand manipulation and tool use, changes in vocal tracts and language and speech. So the first change is erect posture and bipedalism in the human or apes. So the branch point between ape and human ancestor is estimated to be 5 to 6 million years ago. And according to Craig B. Stanford in 1995, he said that a ramidus, that is Australopithecus ramidus, was bipedal. Its lower body was clearly adapted for walking on the ground. Such differences in the locomotory behavior can be explained due to the habitat supposed to have existed in Eastern Africa. That is, there was woodland, bushland and dry savanna with patches of forest along rivers and lakes. Thus, they had to live somewhat less on the trees and more on the ground. The shape of the vertebral column in mammal is directly adjusted to support the animal's center of gravity. So, characteristics of the human vertebral column that are a specific adaptation to an upright posture include enlarging of the lower vertebrae to absorb the forces of compression, relative consistency in the size of spines protruding from each vertebrae, resulting from a lack of weight bearing stress points along the spines, as opposed to gorilla, in which the spines of the neck vertebrae are elongated to provide a solid anchor for the heavy neck muscles. In human, the head is nicely balanced on the top of the vertebral column. So the next point is increase in the size and number of bones in the sacrum to take up the transmission of weight through the pelvis and legs. In humans, average 5 to 6 sacrum bones are there. In apes, around 5, and quadrupedal lower primates, it is 2 to 4 sacrum bones. A sharp backward curving of the spine in the lumbar region, that is lower back, providing a solid platform to transform the weight of the body onto the pelvis and giving the human spinal column its distinctive S shape. So when Ramapithecus emerged with no specialized defensive weapons, must have been an attractive and even easy meal. There were strong selective pressure in the form of carnivorous on the Ramapithecus to develop highly cooperative social groups and efficient communicative code depending on sound rather than visual signals that would be difficult to see in the tall grass, and the habit of rearing up on the hindling to scan the countryside for the danger. So, Australopithecines are already clearly bipedal and erect, although certain human features had not yet completely evolved. The pelvis is not even broadened and rounded as much as in the modern humans. So, in modern humans, there is a rounded and broadened pelvis for support of the internal organs as well as the enhancement of the passing of large brained infant at birth, and there is a shifting of foramen magnum forward at the base of the skull. Foramen magnum is the hole through which the spinal cord pass out of the skull and into the vertebral column. Okay, and there is arches from front to rear, full heel to provide good walking leverage, and femurs are at angle, transferring the whole weight on the legs. Next characteristic that evolved in the humans, that is expansion and development of brain. So rapid increase in brain size in the course of post Australopithecine evolution. The overall size of our ancestors increased at each evolutionary stage. We conclude that there was strong selective pressure for this increase in size, probably because the larger body size made it easier to hold and use tools, and also increase the amount of muscles available to hunters and foragers on long trek. So there is increase in the kind of connections between the brain cells that is apparently responsible for the emergence of new kinds of mental operations such as thinking, using language, operations that are fundamental to human existence. The tremendous growth in brain size between Australopithecines and Homo erectus was accompanied by an increase in size and complexity of the outside surface of the brain called as the cerebral cortex. This expansion of the cortex is the most recent evolutionary development of the human brain, and cortex is primarily associated with thinking and language. So there was reduction in size of face to make room for cranial expansion in the course of evolution. So the birth canal is surrounded by that forms the lower front of the mother's pelvis. This bone sets a limit on the size that a newborn infant can be at the moment of its birth. If it or any part of it is too large, it will get stuck, with the result that both the infant and mother are quite likely to die, which means that they will not contribute their genes to the ongoing evolutionary process. So, major trend of human evolutionary development was a dramatic increase in the size of the brain. Since the size of the head as a whole should not keep getting larger beyond limits allowed by the process of birth, there was a strong adaptive pressure to shorten the snout and reduce the size of the face to make room for cranial expansion in the course of evolution. Fortunately, other processes came into play that made this possible. There is a reduction in the cusp height of the teeth and size of the teeth, interlocking of the upper and lower canines, reduced size of jaw and jaw muscles, the brow ridge diminish, the forehead approaches being vertical, the chin is prominent. The face with its small vertical teeth is flat with a nose that protrudes. So all these features evolved in the course of evolution. So with the arrival of Ramapithecus, some hominid facial traits, the upper and lower canine interlocking only slightly, and there is little or no space next to the canines to make a room for such interlocking. And Australopithecines continue this trend, and Australopithecines also displayed a little in the way of foreheads, and neither the Ramapithecus or nor the Australopithecines nor even Homo erectus have any chin. So in the course of evolution, all these features developed into the human beings. Also, the foramen magnum exactly at the center of the skull's base, and the head is now nicely balanced on the vertebral column, and the nasal cavity and palate are shortened and arched, the tongue thickened and the shortened, and the larynx sunken down into the throat. So the human teeth only really were free to become small when people gave up using the mouth as a tool. Let's now see some cultural factors which helped in the process of hominization. First one is the hand manipulation and the tool use. So each stage of hominid organic evolution accompanied by the major advances in cultural evolution as well. So there is upright posture, leaving the hands free to manipulate objects and carry things for long distance, and evolution of human brain most needed for tool manipulation, and development of the frontal lobes that organize behavior into sequence, and the motor association areas that control the fingers and thumb. So, the earliest evidences of hand manipulations different from apes and sufficiently similar to Homo can be found in Australopithecus afarensis. A precision grip greater than chimpanzees but lesser than the Homo is suggested. Australopithecus afarensis was spending more time on the land than in the trees, hence, land anatomy had started. Environmental influences and adaptation to non arboreal ecological niche were more important for early hominid evolution. So, the use of tools by primitive hominids may be in fact have been a major factor in the evolution of the cerebral cortex and higher intelligence. For once the use and making of tools began to favor survival, there would be high selection pressure for neural mechanisms, providing improved crafting and use of tools. So, the elaborate brain of Homo sapiens may be a consequence of culture as much as it is the cause of culture. So, hominization process with respect to cultural attainments had set in much before the modern man appeared on the earth. So there is development of language in the course of evolution, and language is also an integral part of culture. What we speak, what we use, what we eat, everything is included in the culture. So there are three areas of the brain that are highly evolved in the humans and appear to be crucial for human linguistic ability. Okay, the first is Broca's area. This area activates the muscles of the jaws, lips, and tongues and larynx. Second is Wernicke's area, which is the brain site where verbal comprehension takes place. And third is gyrus, which link up between parts of the brain that receive stimuli from the sense organs of touch, hearing, and sight. Many important aspects of human brains seem to have evolved as speech specializes as a result of strong selective pressure. So, the structure and neural control mechanism necessary for the complex pattern of human speech seem to have evolved during the last 1.8 million years ago. Homo erectus had not only perfected stone tools considerably but had also learned how to control fire and use fire. So, the hearth promoted the development of social organization and allowed an opportunity for the beginning of communication through spoken language. The knowledge and the technique developed by man through cultural evolution influence and modify the biological evolution faced by him. So the result of cultural evolution have brought changes in the gene pool of the human species. For example, food gathering as a cultural activity had an effect on expansion of frontal lobe of brain, which is responsible for the sequencing of your behavior. Hunting and expedition, in which human beings covered more areas and new conditions came in front of them. All these things gained new experiences which put selective pressure on their brains. Also, invention of fire led to cooking of food, which changed the digestive organs of human. So the child of primates are not fully developed in the womb, and after birth also they are dependent on their mother. So because of prolonged infant dependency, there is mother child bond, and also the support of male partner, which led to male female bond and division of labor with hunting and household work. Also there is system of marriage also developed after necessity of these types of bonds. The two aspects of human evolution, that is biological aspects, are also responsible for the uh, development of culture, as well as some cultural developments are responsible for biological evolutions. So these two aspects, biological and cultural, interact with each other, hence the evolution is considered as biocultural evolution. So this was all about the process of hominization and evolution. I hope this is clear to you now. Thank you.